Now then, welcome back. Stories in the afternoon. This one, make no apologies, is again about my Uncle Frank. It's Uncle Frank and the lady from Halifax. Saturday, rain streams down the window as Dad and Uncle Frank watch football. Preston are losing at home to Morecambe 3-2. What we need is a holiday, says Uncle Frank. Maybe a cruise or push camping in France. Camping? Dad shouts. Camping? What do you know about camping? The last time you went out with a tent, you sewed the thing to your trousers after tearing them on barbed wire. But this is posh camping. Everything's 5-star and prepared for you. What about a cruise then? Boats. Boats. Ha! Remember the one you had on the River Wye? Still being used as a hostel for ducks, isn't it? No, I think you should buy a Rover ticket and let the train take the strain, says Dad with a giggle. Hey, you know that's not a bad idea, says Frank, as he heads out the door, pulling on his raincoat. Where's he going now? Says Aunt Margaret from the kitchen, where she's helping Mum with the washing up. Round the bend, shouts Dad, obviously enjoying himself. At the station, Frank looks for a ticket office. All he can find is a locked toilet and a rack for bicycles with a dustbin chained to it. Is there a ticket office? Says Frank to an old chap leaning against the bin. Hasn't been a ticket office here for 10 years. You have to use the machines over there. He points in the direction of the exit. Thanks, says Frank, and shuffles off towards the exit. Where are the ticket machines? He looks around. Nothing leaps out at him that has even a passing resemblance to a ticket machine. Back on the platform, the old chap's nowhere to be seen. Oh, bugger. Frank stands and ponders. Back at the entrance, he looks around and eventually finds a box fixed to the wall behind an old broom cupboard. The ticket machine. Frank looks at the dirty glass pane with the instructions written in Welsh and English. The English, of course, has been scrubbed over in black felt pen. Frank looks at the destinations. Nowhere can he see Rover ticket. The only place he can recognise is Cardiff. £28 return. Frank shoves a £20 note and a £10 note, which the machine instantly swallows. Nothing happens, no ticket, no whirring of cogwheels, no clatter of dispensing ticket. It's not working, says so on glass. The old chap is back. But it's in Welsh, says Frank in despair. You're in Wales, says the old chap with a grin. How do I get my money back, says Frank. You have to go to Cardiff to sort that. And before Frank could utter a single expletive, the old chap's gone. On the bus to Cardiff, Frank thinks about where he will go with the Rover ticket. Maybe I'll travel down to Cornwall or up to Scotland. Such a choice where to go and what to see. In Cardiff, and it started to rain again. Frank stands in the bleak bus station without his coat, which is still on the bus, along with his umbrella. Bugger. Frank pops into the bus station cafe for a hot cup of tea and to get directions to the railway station. Which station is it then, my lovely? Says the amiable lady dispensing tea from the greasy counter. A main line, I think, says Frank. I want to buy a Rover ticket. A Rover is it you want now? Well then, the main line might be the right place for you, my lovely. So take a minute to drink your tea and I'll draw you a little map, my pet. Frank begins to relax and thinks about where to go. The lady returns with a sheet of paper on which she has indeed drawn a map. The paper has been under several cups by the look of it, lots of coffee-coloured rings and some thin, wriggly pencil lines. Here you are, she says to Frank. You're here at the bus station. Now if you go down this road, you'll end up by the motorway, so best not go down that way. No, you take this road. She points at a spidery line on the paper. Round the roundabout, then it's straight on and you'll see off to the right. Thanks, says Frank, clutching his map. He sets out. Outside, the map seems even more squiggly than it had in the cafe. The cup ring's looking more and more like the roundabout he's looking for. Frank goes round the roundabout as directed, and after a few minutes arrives at the motorway. Bugger. Back he goes, back round the roundabout and on straight back to the station, the bus station. You were quick, says the lady in the cafe. Got lost, says Frank. Took the wrong roundabout. But there's only one roundabout down that road, says the old lady. Sorry, says Frank. I mistook the coffee rings for a roundabout. That's what threw me. She takes the map and steps outside. Oh, I see what you mean, she says. Henry, William, you come to Mam a while. A little child about 8 years old arrives at the door. Here, she says, giving the child a paper package. Take this to Aunt Mary and put this gentleman on the road to the station. Frank, clutching the rather sticky hand of the child, is led away to the roundabout and set on the right road. Finally, Frank arrives at the station and finds the station master's office. Station master's not to be found. Frank asks a chap in station uniform if the station master is around and can he talk to him about a broken ticket machine. Station master? You're having a laugh, mate. Been no station master here for 10 years. Who do I see then? Says Frank with growing despair. Ah, now, that would be the county officer for rail and coach travel in County Hall. Trouble is, old mate, today's Monday and the office is closed. Bugger, says Frank, beside himself. Is it open Tuesdays? Yeah, no problem with Tuesdays, except Tuesdays is fines and penalties day. So no good for you if you want to complain. No, your best bet is to put it in writing. That way it'll be dealt with eventually. Usually takes about 3 months to write back, so keep your receipt, mate. But I don't have a receipt, says Frank. The bloody machine didn't work, did it? Look, it's no use getting all arsey with me, mate. If you have no receipt, they won't give you a refund. Sorry. And with that, he ambled off. Frank, resigned to writing off his lost £30, decides to go and get his Rover ticket while he's at the station. Where do you want to go? Says a man in the ticket office. I want to buy a Rover ticket for 2 weeks' travel, says Frank. Where to? Says the man in the ticket office. A Rover, says Frank. Doesn't that go everywhere? No. Well, what can I have? Says Frank. Here, says the ticket man, thrusting a pamphlet into Frank's hands. This will give you all the details. Next! Frank wanders away. Never has such a simple task seemed to be so difficult. In the cafe, Frank looks at the pamphlet. It's in Welsh. Back at the ticket office, Frank asks for a copy in English. Turn it over, says the ticket office man, with a slight smile on his lips. Back in the cafe, Frank's coffee's gone, so he buys another and sits down with the pamphlet. Rover tickets. At last, thinks Frank. Now, where to go? Unfortunately, it's so complex at this point that Frank just simply cannot cope. Bugger! Uncle Frank looked at the pamphlet again. Could he use cross-country with a northern train link and an Arriva train? It all looks so complicated. I need to study this in detail, thought Frank, as he finished his coffee and started to make his way back home. Round the roundabout and straight on, thought Frank, as he marched ahead, thinking about the complex problem of where to go and how to book. He arrived at the motorway. Bugger! Back down the road and then straight on, or was it round the roundabout and straight on? Frank made a decision and arrived smartly back at the railway station. Bugger! £12 and a few minutes later, Frank, having taken a taxi, arrived at the bus station for his ride home. What time is the next bus for Tinton? Says Frank to a chap with a clipboard and peak cap. Tinton now, is it? Well, let's see. Timetable's over there by the cafe. Oh, thanks, says Frank, and walks over to the timetable. It's in Welsh, but at least the places are easy to understand. Tindrin is understandable as Tinton, but the days... When's the next bus to Tinton, please, says Frank to a chap standing outside the cafe. Ah, Tinton is it now? Today being Monday, that would be the last bus today, says the chap, pointing at a bus already pulling away into traffic. Bugger, bugger, bugger. The taxi fare from Cardiff to Tinton was 80 quid. Frank sat down to watch telly and counted the cost of his holiday trip so far. £30 lost at Tinton station in the broken ticket machine, £12 to the bus station, £25 for a bus ticket to Cardiff, plus his taxi, or in total he spent £147, and he still had no Rover ticket. Bugger. The lady from Halifax. Ah, yes. She was the one who eventually wrote to Uncle Frank about the broken ticket machine, asking for his receipt. See you next time. Bye.